The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the U.S. Liberty as red lights flashed across every screen. Commander Jake Martinez gripped his chair and stared at the massive display showing Earth's outer defense ring. Something big was coming through. The asteroid field near Jupiter, and it was not friendly. "Report," Jake called out to his crew. The Liberty was Earth's flagship, armed with the best weapons humanity had built in over 200 years of peace with the galaxy. "Unknown vessel, sir," said Lieutenant Corinne Walsh from her station. "It's huge, twice the size of our biggest ships. The design doesn't match any known coalition species." Jake had been fighting space pirates and smugglers for 15 years. But this felt different. The ship moved with purpose, ignoring all their warning signals. It was heading straight for Earth. "Send a message on all frequencies," Jake ordered. "Tell them this is Earth space, and they need to identify themselves or turn around." The response came in perfect English, which surprised everyone on the bridge. A deep, rough voice filled the command center. "I am Zektar, the undefeated champion of the Vorthic Empire. I have come to claim this world for my people. Send me your greatest warrior to face me in single combat. If he wins, we leave. If I win, your planet belongs to us." The bridge went silent. Jake had never heard of the Vorthic Empire, and that worried him. In 2 centuries of galactic contact, Earth had met dozens of alien races. They were all part of the coalition now, living in peace and trading with each other. "Sir," whispered Communication Officer Brad Stevens, "what do we do?" Jake thought fast. Earth's defense fleet was strong, but they had never faced an unknown enemy before. Most of their weapons were designed to stop criminals, not fight wars. "Get me Captain Lisa Rodriguez," Jake said. "If this alien wants our best fighter, he's about to meet her." 20 minutes later, Lisa's ship launched from the Liberty's main bay. The Phoenix was Earth's fastest fighter, built for speed and quick strikes. Lisa had been flying combat missions for 12 years and had never lost a battle. "Jake, this is crazy," Lisa said over the radio as she flew toward the alien ship. "We don't know anything about this Zektar or his weapons." "I know," Jake replied. "But if we don't try, he might attack Earth directly. At least this way, we have a chance." The alien ship was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen. It looked like a giant sword floating in space, covered with dark metal that seemed to absorb light. As she got closer, a smaller ship detached from the main vessel. It was still bigger than her Phoenix, but at least it was something she could fight. "Human warrior," Zektar's voice crackled through her radio. "I am impressed that you came to face me. Most species send their entire fleet when they see my ship. You send one small fighter. Are you brave or foolish?" "Maybe both," Lisa said, checking her weapons. "Let's find out." The battle began near the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Zektar's ship moved faster than anything Lisa had seen before. His weapons fired beams of energy that could cut through rock like it was paper. But Lisa had something the alien did not expect. She flew her ship in ways that made no sense. When Zektar fired at where she should be, she was somewhere else completely. She used the asteroids not as cover, but as weapons, shooting them toward the alien ship with her engines. When Zektar tried to corner her, she flew directly at him and spun away at the last second. "What are you doing?" Zektar's voice sounded confused. "Your tactics make no logical sense. You waste energy. You take unnecessary risks. You should be dead already." Lisa smiled as she dodged another energy blast. "Welcome to fighting humans, buddy." For 30 minutes, they chased each other through the asteroid field. Zektar's ship was stronger and faster, but Lisa's unpredictable flying kept her alive. She noticed that the alien always attacked in patterns. He was skilled, but he fought like he was following rules. Lisa did not follow rules. She pretended her ship was damaged and let Sektar get close. When he moved in for the kill, she fired all her missiles at once and used the explosion to hide her position. The blast damaged both ships, but Lisa was ready for it. Sektar was not. Impossible, Sektar said, as his ship spun out of control. You damaged your own ship on purpose. That is suicide. No, Lisa said, struggling to control her damaged Phoenix. That's winning. Both ships were too damaged to continue fighting. They drifted in space, waiting for rescue. Lisa's radio was damaged, but she could still hear Sektar breathing heavily on the alien channel. Human, Sektar said finally, your fighting style is unlike anything I have encountered. I have defeated warriors from 17 different worlds. They all fought with honor and logic. You fight like you are insane? Lisa laughed, even though her ship was leaking air and her left arm was probably broken. We're not insane. We're just human. Explain, Sektar demanded. I must understand. How does your species produce warriors who fight without regard for their own survival? As rescue ships approached from both sides, Lisa thought about how to answer. She could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot that held everything she cared about. It's simple, she said. We've been fighting wars since before we could walk upright. My people have been killing each other and anything else that threatened us for thousands of years. We got really good at it. Your species fights among themselves? Sektar sounded shocked. All the time, Lisa said. We had a war that killed 60 million people before we even left our planet. Another one that almost destroyed our whole world. We've been practicing warfare longer than most species have been using tools. There was a long silence on the alien channel. That is not possible, Sektar said quietly. A species that fights itself cannot achieve space travel. They would destroy themselves first. Yeah, we almost did, Lisa admitted as the rescue ships got closer. Several times, actually. But we learned something important along the way. What? Did you learn? Lisa watched as both human and alien rescue ships approached. Soon they would be separated, and this strange conversation would end. But something told her this was just the beginning. We learned that the only thing more dangerous than a human at war is a human protecting something he loves, she said. And Earth is what we love most. As the rescue ships arrived, Sektar's last words echoed through space. I think I need to learn more about your wars, human. Jake Martinez had no idea that this simple challenge would change everything the galaxy thought they knew about humanity. 3 days later, Sektar found himself in a place he had never expected to be. The neutral space station called Haven Point floated between Earth and the outer planets. It was built for meetings between different species, a place where enemies could talk without fighting. Sektar's ship was being repaired in one bay, while Lisa's Phoenix was fixed in another. The alien warrior had demanded to speak with human leaders about their strange fighting methods. What he got instead was Dr. Henry Clark, a thin man with gray hair who looked nothing like a warrior. You are not what I expected, Sektar said as he looked down at the human. The alien stood 8 feet tall with dark red skin and muscles that could crush steel. Dr. Clark looked like he had never held a weapon in his life. I'm a historian, Henry said calmly. I study wars and why people fight them. Commander Martinez, thought you might want to learn about human warfare. Sektar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. What could you possibly teach me about war? I have conquered 17 worlds. I have killed thousands of warriors in single combat. Your species barely reached the stars 2 centuries ago. Henry nodded and gestured to a chair. Please, sit down. Let me show you something. The room darkened and a holographic display appeared in the center. Images of Earth filled the space between them. Sektar saw green lands, blue oceans, and white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful. "This is our planet in the year 1939, Henry said. "Watch what happens next." The images changed. Zektar saw machines rolling across the land, cities burning, and millions of humans marching in formation. Ships battled on the oceans, while metal birds fought in the sky above. "What am I looking at?" Zektar asked. "World War II, Henry replied. "One of our larger conflicts. It lasted 6 years and involved most of our planet." Zektar studied the images with interest. The weapons looked primitive compared to his own technology, but the scale surprised him. "How many warriors died in this battle?" "About 70 million. "People," Henry said quietly. The alien warrior stared at him. 70 million? That is impossible. No single battle could produce such casualties. "It wasn't one battle," Henry explained. "It was thousands of battles fought across 6 continents simultaneously. We had armies of millions fighting on multiple fronts for years." Major Sam Hughes entered the room carrying a datapad. He was a soldier, and Zektar could see it in the way he moved. But even this warrior looked small and weak compared to the alien. "Dr. Clark, I brought those tactical reports you requested," Sam said, then looked at Zektar. "So you're the one who challenged Captain Rodriguez." "I am Zektar the Undefeated," the alien replied. "Though your Captain Rodriguez fought in ways I do not understand." Sam smiled. "That's because you've never fought humans before. We don't follow the same rules as everyone else." "Explain these rules," Zektar demanded. Sam sat down and activated his datapad. "Most species fight for territory, resources, or dominance. Simple goals with logical methods. Humans fight for ideas. Ideas cannot be conquered," Zektar said. "Exactly," Sam replied. "That's what makes us dangerous. In that war Dr. Clark showed you, humans died for concepts like freedom, democracy, and justice. You can't steal those things or destroy them with weapons." The holographic display changed. Again, now Zektar saw images of humans in striped clothing behind wire fences. Guards with weapons stood nearby while prisoners worked until they collapsed. "What is this place?" Zektar asked. "A concentration camp," Henry said. "During that war, one group of humans decided that other humans were inferior and needed to be eliminated. They built factories designed to kill people as efficiently as possible." Zektar studied the images carefully. In his experience, conquered populations became slaves or servants. They were valuable resources. This makes no logical sense. Why destroy useful workers? Because they weren't fighting for resources, Sam explained. They were fighting for an idea. They believed some humans were better than others and wanted to create a perfect society. Dr. Susan Baker joined them in the room. She was a specialist in alien psychology and had been studying Zektar's behavior since his arrival. "The concept you're struggling with is called ideology," Susan said. "Humans will die for beliefs that exist only in their minds. We've fought wars over religion, political systems, and social structures. Your species fights itself?" Zektar asked, though he remembered Lisa saying something similar. "Constantly," Henry replied. "We've been at war with each other for our entire recorded history. Sometimes the fighting stops for a few years, but it always starts again." The alien warrior stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth in the distance, looking peaceful and beautiful. It was hard to believe that such a lovely world could produce such violent creatures. "In my culture, warriors fight for glory and conquest," Zektar said slowly. "We test ourselves against worthy opponents to prove our strength. But we do not destroy valuable resources or fight for invisible things." "That's why you don't understand Lisa's tactics," Sam said. "She wasn't fighting for glory or to prove her strength. She was fighting to protect her home and everything she cares about. Protection, I understand, Zektar replied. All species defend their territory. No, this is different, Susan explained. Humans don't just defend territory. We defend ideas, beliefs, and ways of life. We'll sacrifice everything, including our lives, to preserve what we think is right. The holographic display showed new images. Zektar saw humans in jungle environments, fighting an enemy they could rarely see. The weapons were more advanced now, but the fighting looked even more brutal than the earlier war. This is Vietnam, Henry said, a small country where we fought for 10 years. We had superior technology, more soldiers, and better supplies. But we lost. How is that possible? Zektar asked. Because the other side was fighting for their homeland, while we were fighting for political ideas that most of our soldiers didn't understand, Sam explained. They were willing to sacrifice everything. We weren't. Zektar watched as the images showed humans living in tunnels underground, making weapons from scraps, and continuing to fight even when their cities were bombed. These humans never surrendered? He asked. Never, Henry confirmed. They fought for 30 years against 3 different major powers. They lost millions of people, but kept fighting because they believed in their cause. The alien warrior felt something he had rarely experienced: confusion. In his world, defeated enemies surrendered or died. They didn't continue fighting hopeless battles for decades. There's something else you need to understand, Susan said. These weren't trained soldiers fighting in Vietnam. Many were farmers, teachers, and workers who picked up weapons to defend their homes. Civilians became warriors? Zektar asked. When humans are threatened, everyone becomes a warrior, Sam replied. Mothers, fathers, children, old people. The concept of non-combatants doesn't really exist in human warfare. Zektar looked at the 3 humans in front of him. None of them looked like warriors, but now he wondered if appearances meant anything when dealing with his species. How many wars has your species fought? He asked. Henry and Sam exchanged glances. Major conflicts? Hundreds. But if you count every battle, uprising, revolution, and civil war throughout our history, the number would be in the thousands. And you survived all of this? More than survived, Susan said. We learned from it. Every conflict taught us new ways to fight, new strategies, and new ways to organize our societies. Zektar sat back down, feeling overwhelmed. I thought I was challenging a peaceful species that had recently joined the galactic community. But you are describing a race of warriors that has been perfecting the art of war for millennia. Now, you're beginning to understand, Henry said. The question is, do you want to learn more? The alien warrior looked at Earth again, seeing it with new eyes. That beautiful, peaceful world was home to the most experienced fighters in the galaxy. Zektar could not sleep. For 2 days, he had been thinking about everything the humans had shown him. Their wars were unlike anything in his experience. The Vorthek Empire conquered worlds through superior strength and technology, but humans seemed to fight wars that served no logical purpose. General Paul Mitchell arrived at Haven Point on the 3rd day. He was older than the other humans, with silver hair and scars on his hands. When he walked into the meeting room, even Zektar could sense that this man had seen real combat. I hear you want to understand human warfare, Paul said without introduction. Dr. Clark and Major Hughes have been showing you our history. I'm here to show you what we're really capable of. What do you mean? Zektar asked. Paul activated the holographic display. They showed you World War II and Vietnam, but those were small conflicts compared to what came next. The display showed a map of Earth with 2 large areas marked in different colors. Red covered roughly half the planet, while blue covered the other half. After World War II, our species split into 2 major groups with different ideas about how society should work, Paul explained. For 45 years, these two sides pointed weapons at each other and waited. 45 years? Zektar said. Why did the war last so long? There was no war, Paul replied. That's what made it terrifying. Colonel Amy Foster entered the room carrying a metal briefcase. She was a small woman, but something about her made Zektar nervous. She moved like a predator, trying to look harmless. This was called the Cold War, Amy said as she sat down. Both sides built weapons, but never used them. They were too afraid. Afraid of what? Zektar asked. Paul gestured to the display. Show him the numbers, Amy. Amy opened her briefcase and pulled out a datapad. At the peak of the Cold War, humans had built approximately 65,000 nuclear weapons. Each one was capable of destroying an entire city. Zektar stared at her. 65,000? That was enough firepower to destroy our entire planet several times over, Paul said calmly. We built weapons designed to end our own species. The alien warrior felt something cold in his stomach. The Dvorthic Empire had conquered 17 worlds, but they had never built weapons capable of destroying planets. Conquest required leaving something valuable behind. Why would you create such weapons? Zektar asked. Because the other side was building them too, Amy replied. If they could destroy us, we needed to be able to destroy them. It was called mutual assured destruction. You held your own species hostage? For 45 years, Paul confirmed. Every day, both sides had to decide whether to end human civilization. Somehow, we chose not to. Commander Steve Adams joined them in the room. He looked tired, as if he had been working all night. General Mitchell, I brought those classified files you requested. Good, Paul said. Zektar, what you've seen so far represents our official military history. Commander Adams is going to show you some things we don't usually share with other species. Steve activated a new display. Zektar saw images of humans fighting in ways that shocked him. They hid in tunnels and struck without warning. They used children to carry bombs. They turned everyday objects into weapons. This is guerrilla warfare, Steve explained. When conventional armies are defeated, humans continue fighting using unconventional methods. These are not soldiers, Zektar observed. No, they're civilians who refuse to surrender, Amy said. Teachers, farmers, shopkeepers who decided to become warriors rather than accept defeat. The images changed to show humans in different environments. Some fought in frozen mountains, others in burning deserts. Some lived in sewers beneath cities, while others hid in dense forests. Humans have fought in every environment on our planet, Steve continued. We've learned to wage war in places where most species couldn't even survive. How long do these resistance movements continue? Zektar asked. Sometimes generations, Paul replied. We have records of groups that fought occupying forces for over a century. Parents taught their children to fight, and those children taught their children. Dr. Rachel Moore entered the room carrying a stack of psychological profiles. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but when she spoke, her words chilled Zektar to his core. I study how warfare affects the human mind, Rachel said. What we've discovered is that humans have an unusual capacity for what we call total war. Explain total war, Zektar demanded. It means every member of our society becomes part of the war effort, Rachel explained. Mothers send their sons to die and then go to work building weapons. Scientists work until they collapse developing better ways to kill. Entire populations will starve rather than surrender. The holographic display showed new images. Zektar saw human cities reduced to rubble while people continued to work in underground factories. He saw children as young as 10 years old serving as messengers in active war zones. This is not logical, Zektar said. Preserving your population should take priority over military objectives. Not for humans, Paul replied. When we believe in something strongly enough, we'll sacrifice everything to protect it. Rachel pulled up a psychological profile. During World War II, a city called Leningrad was surrounded by enemy forces for 872 days. Over 1 million civilians died, mostly from starvation, but the city never surrendered. They chose death over defeat? They chose to die free, rather. And live as slaves, Amy corrected. That's the difference between humans and other species. We don't just fight to win. We fight to preserve our way of life. Steve changed the display again. Now Zektar saw technical diagrams of weapons he didn't recognize. These are some of the weapons humans developed during our conflicts. Chemical weapons that destroy the nervous system. Biological weapons that target specific genetic markers. Incendiary weapons that burn underwater. We created weapons specifically designed to cause maximum suffering, Paul added. Not because we enjoyed causing pain, but because psychological warfare is often more effective than physical destruction. Zektar studied the diagrams with growing horror. His own species prided themselves on honorable combat. They fought with advanced technology, but their weapons were designed for quick, clean kills. You weaponized suffering itself? We weaponized everything, Rachel said quietly. Music, art, food, medicine, religion. If something existed, humans found a way to turn it into a weapon or a tool of war. Amy opened another file. During the Cold War, both sides developed psychological operations designed to destroy enemy morale without firing a shot. We learned to wage war on the human mind itself. This is why Captain Rodriguez fought the way she did, Steve explained. Every human carries the genetic and cultural memory of thousands of years of warfare. We don't fight like other species because we've had to develop different methods to survive. Zektar stood up and walked to the window again. Earth looked as beautiful as ever, but now he saw it differently. That peaceful blue world was home to creatures that had spent millennia perfecting the art of destruction. How many humans know these methods? He asked. All of them, Paul replied. Human children learn about warfare through games, stories, and entertainment. Military history is taught in schools. Strategic thinking is considered a basic life skill. Your entire species consists of potential warriors? More than that, Rachel said. Our entire species consists of survivors. Every human alive today is descended from people who were better at warfare than their enemies. We carry those traits in our blood. Zektar turned back to face the humans. I came here believing I was challenging a peaceful species. Instead, I find myself facing creatures that have turned warfare into an art form. Now you're beginning to understand, Amy said. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? The alien warrior looked at each human in the room. None of them appeared threatening, but now he knew appearances meant nothing. These small, fragile-looking creatures represented the most dangerous species he had ever encountered, and somewhere in the back of his mind, a terrible thought was beginning to form. If humans were this good at warfare, and if they had been peaceful, members of the Galactic Coalition for 2 centuries, then perhaps their peace was not what it appeared to be. Zektar had not eaten or slept properly in days. The knowledge the humans had shared with him was too disturbing to process. He demanded to speak with the highest-ranking human leader available. What he got was Fleet Admiral John Carter, a man whose presence filled the room, even though he was smaller than most humans Zektar had met. You wanted to see me, John said as he entered the meeting room. He was followed by Ambassador Linda Thompson, a woman who moved with quiet confidence. I need to understand something, Zektar said without greeting. Your species has the capacity to destroy entire civilizations. You have weapons that could end all life on planets. You have turned warfare into a precise science. Yet you joined the Galactic Coalition peacefully and have lived in harmony for 2 centuries. Why? John sat down across from the alien warrior. Because we were tired of war. That is not sufficient explanation, Zektar replied. Species do not abandon their greatest advantages simply because they are tired. Linda activated the room's security systems, ensuring their conversation would remain private. What Admiral Carter means is that we chose peace because we understood the true cost of war better than anyone else. Dr. Frank Roberts entered the room, carrying a device Zektar had never seen before. Frank was Earth's lead scientist, and his calm demeanor reminded Zektar of someone carrying a terrible secret. Show him the real numbers, Frank, John said. Frank activated his device, and new holographic displays filled the room. Zektar saw technical specifications for weapons that made everything he had previously seen look primitive. These are theoretical designs we developed during the final years before joining the Coalition, Frank explained. Antimatter bombs capable of cracking planets, biological weapons that could sterilize entire star systems, gravitational weapons that could collapse suns. Zektar stared at the specifications. Theoretical? We built prototypes, Frank said quietly. We tested them in remote systems where no life existed. They worked. Why are you showing me this? Zektar asked. Because you need to understand what humanity chose to give up when we joined the Coalition, John replied. We didn't join because we were weak or afraid. We joined because we decided we didn't want to be monsters anymore. Captain Maria Santos entered the room carrying classified files marked with security seals. She looked nervous, as if she was about to reveal information that could change everything. Admiral, I brought the defense protocols you requested, Maria said, then looked at Zektar. Are you sure about this? He needs to know, Linda said. If the Vorthic Empire is going to make decisions about humanity, they should have all the facts. Maria opened the files and displayed new information. Zektar saw detailed maps of every Coalition world, complete with military installations, population centers, and resource locations. Every human vessel in the Coalition serves a dual purpose, Maria explained. Our merchant ships can be converted to warships within 6 hours. Our research stations are also military outposts. Our diplomatic missions are intelligence-gathering operations. You have been spying on your allies? We have been preparing, John corrected. When you've survived as long as humanity has, you learn to plan for every possibility. General Kevin Hayes entered the room carrying the largest data file Zektar had seen yet. His expression was grim, as if he was about to reveal something that would haunt the alien warrior forever. Zektar, what I'm about to show you is classified at the highest levels, Kevin said. Only a few dozen humans know this information exists. What information? Our contingency plans, Kevin replied as he activated the display. The holographic system showed detailed battle plans for every species in the Coalition. Zektar saw invasion routes, target lists, and tactical assessments that covered dozens of worlds. We know how to defeat every species in the galaxy, Kevin continued. We've studied their biology, psychology, technology, and military doctrine. We know their weaknesses, their fears, and their breaking points. Zektar studied the plans with growing terror. They were not theoretical. Every detail was precise, updated, and ready for implementation. The Altarians can be defeated by disrupting their hive mind communication networks, Kevin explained as he highlighted one plan. The Crystalline Federation becomes helpless when their silicon-based technology is exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies. The Aquatic Collective cannot survive if their water supply is contaminated with common industrial chemicals. You have planned to exterminate your allies? We have planned to survive, Linda said firmly. That's what humans do. We prepare for every possible threat. Director Nancy Price entered the room. She was the head of Earth's intelligence operations, and her arrival made even the other humans look uncomfortable. Director Price handles our special operations, John explained. Nancy, show him the current assets. Nancy activated her own display. Zektar saw a map of the galaxy with thousands of small markers scattered across Coalition space. Every marker represents a human agent embedded within another species' government, military, or scientific community, Nancy said. We have been gathering intelligence for 2 centuries. How many agents? Over 50,000, Nancy replied. Scientists studying alien technology, diplomats mapping political weaknesses, traders identifying critical resources, artists and entertainers analyzing psychological vulnerabilities. Zektar realized the scope of what he was seeing. You have infiltrated the entire coalition. We have protected ourselves, John corrected. When you're a species that has survived by being smarter and more ruthless than your enemies, you don't stop planning just because you've made friends. Nancy highlighted specific locations on her map. We know which planets each species cannot afford to lose. We know their communication codes, their supply lines, their military capabilities, and their political weaknesses. More importantly, Kevin added, we know how each species thinks. We understand their decision-making processes, their cultural taboos, and their psychological breaking points. Frank brought up a new display showing resource distribution across the galaxy. We have identified every critical resource each species needs to survive. Their fuel sources, their food production, their manufacturing capabilities. And you could cut off these resources? Within hours, Maria confirmed. Our merchant fleet knows every supply route in the galaxy. Our scientists understand every alien technology we've encountered. Zektar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. You are not members of the coalition. You are predators studying your prey. We are survivors ensuring our survival, Linda said. The difference is that we chose not to be predators. John stood up and walked to the window showing Earth. When humanity first encountered the coalition, we had a choice. We could conquer the galaxy using our advantages in warfare and strategic thinking, or we could try to build something better. We chose to build something better, Nancy added. But we never forgot how to be what we were. Every human in the coalition knows their secondary mission, Kevin explained. If humanity is ever threatened, every one of our people becomes a weapon pointed at the heart of galactic civilization. Zektar understood now why Captain Rodriguez had fought so strangely. She was not just a pilot defending her world. She was the product of a species that had turned survival into an art form. The terrible truth, Frank said quietly, is that humanity could wage war across the entire galaxy simultaneously. We have the weapons, the plans, the intelligence, and the people in place. But we choose not to, John said firmly. Every day, humanity makes the conscious decision to remain peaceful. Not because we cannot fight, but because we have seen where fighting leads. Zektar looked at Earth one last time. The beautiful blue world that had seemed so peaceful was actually the home of the galaxy's apex predators. Creatures so dangerous that they had to consciously choose to be peaceful every single day. What happens now? Zektar asked. Now you go home, Linda said. You tell your empire what you have learned. You explain that challenging humanity was not brave but suicidal. And if my people do not believe me, then they will learn, John said sadly, why the galaxy is better off with humans as friends rather than enemies. As Zektar prepared to leave Haven Point, he realized that his greatest victory would be convincing his own people never to fight the humans again. Because in a galaxy full of warriors and conquerors, humanity was something far more terrifying. They were the monsters that monsters feared in the dark.